Hey folks, Michael Raso Film Photography Project here. I'm very excited today for what's in this case. With me today is John Fideli behind the camera.
I beg your pardon.
We're going to take out what's in the case. Got our pistol grip, and this is the Canon Reflex Zoom 8. The word reflex is important because of all the 8mm movie cameras that I have done overviews of, very few you actually look through the lens. When you're looking through your viewfinder, you're actually looking through the lens you're shooting with, which means you can actually focus through the lens. Now, when you buy a vintage camera online, by the way, this one is very inexpensive on eBay.com. I saw one as low as $18 that fully working, which is incredible. This one came with a instruction booklet, which is always a bonus because then you could really take your time, you and a cup of coffee, peruse, gives you detailed information on loading, and this camera is all manual and it takes no batteries. So what do we need to know to get started? Well, it takes 8x film. For those who are familiar with this channel, you could probably recite this in your sleep.
I know I can.
8x film is 16mm in width, but it's not considered 16mm film because the sprocket system is totally different than 16mm film. So you cannot use 16mm film in this camera. This camera takes a 25-foot spool of what's known as 8x film. And the reason it's called 8x is because you expose it through your camera twice. So you'll load it in your camera, shoot it, and then your camera will expose one side of the film, and then you will take the film, which I will show you, and you will flip it in your camera, and then you will shoot it again, exposing the other half, the other side of your film. So if you're shooting what's known as a negative film, you'll get it developed, and then the 16mm width film will be scanned and then slit electronically. But if you're shooting what's known as reversal film is a film that is a positive image that can either be scanned or used in a vintage projector. In that case, it gets slit in the lab, and then you wind up with a traditional 50-foot roll of film. Get it? 25 feet of 8x film equals, whether it's done electronically or in a projector, equals 50 feet of film. Here is the film compartment of your camera. Here is where your film goes. This is known as your take-up spool, right? This is known as your film gate. So the film travels through your film gate, exposing one frame at a time. 16 frames per second are exposed. This is your pressure plate. The pressure right here. That keeps your film against the film gate when shooting. And the reason the pressure plate is open right now is because it closes. When you close the camera, there's this little, it closes the pressure plate when you shut your camera. Your 25-foot roll of 8x film. This is a test roll, so it's much shorter than you will have. And what you need to know, and this is the golden rule of shooting 8x film, the emulsion, which is the dull side of your film, is the light sensitive. So for everyone out there shooting digitally most days, as all of us mostly are, this is light sensitive material. So you can't expose your film to light, and this film needs to be developed before you can see your images. Light sensitive side, the emulsion, always faces out towards the lens. The back side of the film is known as the base. It's usually darker and shinier. As recommended in the instruction manual, which I happen to have, you take your film, and then for this particular camera, it's take your take-up spool, which says number 1, side 1. Take-up spool says number 1, side 1. Take your film, you put it on your take-up spool. There it is, goes in there. The emulsion side of your film facing out, and now you simply put your take-up spool on the post, as so. Putting the film, can you see okay?
Mm-hmm.
Putting the film in between the pressure plate and the film gate. Putting your take-up spool on its post. These only go on one way, so there, look at that. Now put your film behind that pressure plate. You'll feel it and hear it click in. Let's see. Did you hear that? It kind of you heard like a click, click. So that means the film is now inside the pressure plate against the gate, And now to test it, you'll hold your finger here to keep the pressure plate closed. Let's see. Look at that. It's always a good idea to do a quick test before you entomb your film as such. So you close your camera. Once slide 1 is loaded, you don't want to open this door because it'll expose your film to light and you'll ruin part of your roll. You're ready to shoot slide 1. Make sure your camera is perfectly wound. Each full wind will give you about 30 seconds. And then on this side gives you the number of frames per second, running through your camera being exposed. The 16 is highlighted orange because 16 is the normal for 8 film. There are other settings you could use, different frame rates, but that's for a different day. 1/30th of a second fixed shutter. That's important for your light meter, which is the next thing we should be concerned about, which is setting the f-stop on your camera. I should note that on the Canon Zoom 8 camera, on top is what's known as a light meter, and the front is a selenium light meter. The years of storage have made this go bust. The best thing to do is just ignore that. This is a fully manual camera anyway. This was just a guide. So even if this was working, it would be giving you wrong information because the ISO, also known as ASA, of your films is much different than it was in the mid-20th century. Did I tell you that this camera was first released in 1959? You need to set your f-stops, and the f-stop setting, this is the aperture which opens and closes behind the lens and lets different amounts of light into your film. So let's picture it. You're shooting your image. It's coming through the lens, going through the aperture which you set, and then hitting the film which you have in your film gate. Opens up as wide as f1.4. Excellent. And it stops down as far as f22. Excellent. The thing to do is to use a handheld light meter or light meter app, and you will use that by putting the ISO of your film into your light meter and your shutter speed, which you need to know, which is 1/30th of a second. By taking your light meter reading, it will give you what f-stop. Don't let it upset you. There's lots of research online of how to use a light meter. I'm sure you'll be able to master it in no time at all. You do need to focus this camera. This lens is from a 10mm lens, which is a little bit on the wide side. Normal is 13, and you could zoom up to 40mm. I would say, and it says it right in the camera manual, just go easy on the zooming. The manual says if you're gonna zoom, use a tripod. Focusing. Don't be scared. I know this is a lot of stuff. This camera is a little more advanced than the ones we've talked about in the past, but here is your focus, and the white is feet, and the M orange is meters. So we're here in the US, so we use feet. Generally speaking, if you're outside, you could set it to infinity or 30 feet, and that should take care of almost everything. If you're shooting closer or close-ups of family and friends, let's say at a picnic or a family event, I don't know, set it to like 6 feet. Judge it. What you don't want to do is set it for, let's say, 5 feet or 4 feet, and then shoot wide shots. You'll wind up with a blurry movie. Back of the camera, you'll be looking through the lens, and as I said, for close-ups, you will be able to use the split field to focus your shots. Here's your film counter. It starts at S. Do you see it moving? And it'll wind up going all the way around to 25 feet. So you will know when your roll is up, when your side one is done by this counter. It'll be at 25. But since this is a short roll, and another way to sense is to use you can call it the force. I call it the, moving picture force, or spidey sense, your spidey sense. You could hear the film roll out. Sometimes you could actually hear it roll out because the sound, you'll hear the sound of the film go through the gate. It'll go like, and you'll hear the motor sound change. So let's open up. Very nice. All right, so the film is now still behind the gate, so you want to pull it out. There you go. So what do we have here? we want to shoot side 2, and we do this by flipping and reloading. We take out our take-up spool, flip it, take out our roll, our original roll, which is now empty, flip it. Now we take our film, same principle, always the same. Emulsion side lighter facing out, the base always facing in. Put it on the spool that you just flipped. Make sure it's on there nicey nice. Great. You put your film on your post. Nice. You put your film in, sandwich your film in between the pressure plate, and the film gate. You put your take-up spool on its post. There it is, nice. Make sure the film is properly between the pressure plate and the gate. Close it, just gently with your hand to do a test. Whoa, check it out. Confidence is high. Close up. And now you're ready to shoot. Whoops. Always make sure you have your camera all juiced up. What to know? Well, when you're shooting side 1 and you roll out and it's time to change and flip it and shoot side 2, always duck into like a very dim lit area inside or somewhere where it's kind of dark, so you don't damage or expose too much of your film when changing it. And then before removing your film and sending it in for processing and scanning, you will need to shoot the entirety of side 2. When you're done shooting side 2, you will open up your camera, and then you will remove your film. Notice it's back on its original spool, side 1 and side 2 shot. You put the rubber band back around it, put it in its metal tin or black bag that it came with, and hopefully send it off to filmphotographystore.com, that's us, to develop and scan. Now you take your take-up spool, flip it, put it back where it was originally, and now you're ready for your next big adventure. Overall, this is an excellent, well-built camera with an awesome Canon lens. The wonderful thing about this is that as of this recording, it's very inexpensive on eBay.com. I saw one today for $18 plus $15 shipping, which is very, very reasonable. That's it for this overview. As always, leave a comment down below. Love to hear from you, and we'll show some footage shot with this very camera.
How you doing? Here's your shit. It's the shit.